Welcome to Desh Bangla Live with Tania Amir. I have the pleasure and honor to invite Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, who is an Indian Foreign Service officer, now retired. He served in Jordan, Libya, and Malta as ambassador, and during a short time, he was also at the Bangladesh mission in Dhaka. He is a regular commentator on foreign affairs and a prolific writer. Currently, he is a distinguished fellow with the prestigious Vivekananda International Foundation and also a distinguished fellow at the oldest military think tank, the United Services Institute of India. He is also a peace ambassador with Unity Earth. And without much further ado, may I invite Anilji. Welcome.
Thank you, Tania ji. It's such a great pleasure being with you today. And I'm grateful for your invitation to talk about Bangladesh and developments that are taking place there as well as India-Bangladesh relations.
Yes, the floor is all yours. How do you assess the situation in Bangladesh?
Well, Tania ji, I have served there from 1986 to 89, which was also a very difficult period, especially for India-Bangladesh relations during General Irshad's time, if you will recall. Then I have been visiting Bangladesh, participating in conferences. I have a very large number of friends in Bangladesh, and therefore, naturally, like every Indian, we also want Bangladesh to succeed, to prosper, and our Bangladeshi brothers and sisters to do well. Definitely, in the last year, there have very dramatic changes that have taken place. They were to some extent, particularly induced in my by several other actors, and this is something that has caused a major disruption in the way the normal Bangladeshi life worked. In my view, people of Bangladesh, and as I felt individually, felt more from a cultural lens with India. For them, Bangladeshi or Bengali culture was more predominant than their religious differences. I had seen most of my friends who were Bangladeshis, mostly Muslims. They would all talk about Nazrul Giti, but at the same time, the Rabindra Sangit. So this was not something that was like alien to everybody. So there was a respect for culture. But what we are looking at today is a targeting of minorities, which is causing more difficulties in the social fabric of Bangladesh and causing an unnecessary complication. The current government of Mr. Yunus has not been able to control the situation, or has maybe indirectly, by not being vocal about it, has allowed the social disruption to take place. More and more radicalization one is witnessing, and also extremism is growing once again. We are seeing that what had happened in 1971 to Bangladeshis and before by the Western Pakistan. But today they are becoming their great friends once again. That means there is an attempt to rewrite the history, so-called reset. But at the same time, what they are trying to do is undermine the very fabric and the spirit of Bangladesh. I hope that the Bangladeshi people realize that. At the same time, India has always stood by Bangladesh. That's what I want to tell you. We have this neighborhood first policy in which Bangladesh had a predominant role and a very success story to a great extent as far as India-Bangladesh relations were concerned. But then efforts have been made to malign India, to undermine that very relationship, to undermine the very role that the two countries played together in their becoming and being all together since 1971 onwards, despite political differences. And I think that is a situation today that we are facing. India still stands with Bangladesh and Bangladeshi people. And unfortunately, the way the current trends are going, it's very dismal situation. And I hope that if the elections are held, they are unlikely to be the as they call it free and fair or inclusive. They, but I hope they are free and fair. They are not inclusive, as one can see all through a major political party has been banned, and some referendum is being conducted to change the whole, again, the fabric of the society and the constitution, which is going to really create a very major problem for Bangladeshis, because I don't think that the people of Bangladesh are like that. So hopefully the changes that are being envisaged could be temporary, and people will realize that why are they being shortchanged for very myopic gains.
Yes. The anti-India sentiment aroused by the radicals was such that even the Indian High Commissions were attacked. So there was serious provocation upon India. India has shown restraint. Is that likely to continue? How do
I
you
hope
see?
so. I mean, yes, that is, you are right. I mean, I remember not only now, in the 86 to 89 period when I was there, very often the politically perpetrated people would come and throw these Molotov cocktails. There were Hindu Muslim rights, and the violation of the temples, and you could see that this is the kind of thing that used to very frequently happen. But at the same time, the majority of the people in Bangladesh were not part of this kind of an agenda which was there. Today, seems to be changing, and that is very difficult. Now you know that the cultural center of India was burned down. This Indian High Commission was attacked. Indian consulates were attacked. There have been problems, of course, apart from the minorities. Several of them have been killed even yesterday. One person has been killed. One was mowed down. So this is also very intentional, and that is also driven by a radicalization and extremism and certain groups that have always stood for that kind of a thing against India and against the minorities. But I think that larger number of people do not subscribe to this very, very regressive ideology which is being perpetuated by certain parties, political parties, and the groups. And nowadays, I must tell you, we may talk about more Jamaat Islami, but at the same time, we are seeing that the ISI of Pakistan is very well ensconced there, and that is trying to develop these Lashkar-e-Toiba and other groups are also operating out of Bangladesh. So this is going to be a bigger problem for India. I think that India has to also take care of it. While, as you know, our Minister of External Affairs was recently in Bangladesh when we had the Khalida Zia's death happened, and in that to participate and to condole on behalf of India, he went there. So India is taking every step to convey to our Bangladeshi friends that India stands with the people of Bangladesh. For us, a government of the day is an instrument of cooperation, because as a foreign government or a foreign country which wants to work with Bangladesh will have to obviously go through the elected government of the country. Unfortunately, today you do not have an elected government. You have an interim government about which also there are legal opinions that it is an illegal or not legitimate as per the constitution of Bangladesh. So that is a major problem that's happening. But India is maintaining a strategic restraint, and there is no doubt about it.
It's a very interesting comparison you draw from the time when you're in Bangladesh during a tenure also when we did not have an elected government. So it is a very interesting similarity. It seems that whenever Bangladesh does not have an elected government, where the government does not have mandate from the people, they tend to rely upon the extremist elements in order to sustain themselves in power. Would you tend to agree with that?
It appears so, Tanyaji. What you are saying appears to be very correct. I mean, in fact, that creates a certain kind of a distraction for the people, and that distraction tends to serve the interests of the people in power. That is what they try to do. The more the conflicts, the more the differences, the more violence, it gives them the sort of raison d'etre to continue and saying that, because the situation is like this, we must continue to be like that. Whether it was General Shah's time or it is now under Dr. Yunus, the effort is not being made to create that kind of cohesiveness or bring the people who are, I mean, it is not that everybody is doing it, but those people who are doing it, they must be brought to justice somehow, at least overtly. But that is precisely the problem which is not happening there.
Yes, the elements who are terrorists, who are rapists, extremists, who were convicted and were languishing in jail, the first thing Dr. Yunus did was to release them, which is kind of a confront upon the judiciary itself, because they were convicted prisoners. So it seems that you also indicated about the impunity given to these radical elements and those who are creating this mayhem and mob, that they're not being condemned by the current regime.
Yes, I mean, the job of if you are in power, your job is to keep the country safe, the people safe. Country is not only the borders, country is also the people. And all people in Bangladesh are Bangladeshi citizens. So irrespective of whether they're Hindus, Christians, Buddhists or Muslims, it is the responsibility of the government of the day to protect them and to look after them, to take care of them, rather than create dissensions among them for your political ends. I mean, that's precisely, and unfortunately, that's what appears to be happening. And of course, I mean, if you see the government websites themselves, they list so many large number of cases that have happened or incidents that have happened. They themselves have admitted to thousands of them over the past 1 year or so. So I mean, that is not a very good kind of a situation in which the Bangladesh would like to be, because Bangladesh was doing so well. I must say, before August 5th, that its economy was doing well. It was moving into a developmental system. It's becoming more from underdeveloped to developing country status was going to go there. Its exports were doing well. Today, the economy is in a very bad shape. And these are the problems that the people face. So then when people face, then you direct their ire to the minority communities or to some other issues which are there. And in order to say that these are long seed problems, they are not something that has happened because of the government there. Now that is something that cannot hold them for too long. But they can cause discontent in the country and among the people. So the social harmony gets disrupted in that process. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, absolutely. Although you mentioned minorities, but we are also beginning to see it's not just the Hindu minorities, but the Christians, the Buddhists, the Sufi saints. Over 200 Sufi shrines were demolished, and women generally. So there's moral policing going around as to what a woman should do, how she should dress, restriction on her mobility, her work, and of course the cultural institutes like the Udichi, Chayanot, as you said, the Indian Cultural Institute was also demolished, and major newspapers have been burned down. Yet there's no condemnation or initiative by the government to arrest and put this minorities. I would say the offenders are minorities, the radicals are minorities. So the attack is upon the majority, as you rightly say, of the people of Bangladesh. So how do we communicate this? That these are a bunch of radicals, minority group of people who are out in the streets, aided and abetted by the government, who seem to be giving them impunity to go ahead and cause such mayhem. So would you not agree that they're the minority and the majority people of Bangladesh, irrespective of their gender or political persuasion or religious persuasion, are being persecuted?
That is true. I mean, casts doubt not only on the complicity of those who are in power or in authority, whose job is to prevent these situations and this kind of crimes to be committed against any Bangladeshi. I mean, forget about the minorities per se. I mean, we cannot be talking only about minorities. The Bangladeshis themselves, and if you are going to Talibanize the society, a very enlightened society, then that is for the Bangladeshi people to really call it out. I mean, that's extremely important because, as far as I know, and I have seen, this most of the Bangladeshi women and people are very enlightened and they are very culturally alive, and therefore these kind of restrictions that are being brought about in a very regressive manner, and the choice of the women, especially of the 50% of the society, cannot be subjected to these kind of, I should say, unilateral measures that are being taken on behest of certain groups in the country. I mean, there are very small number of people, but they are holding the situation hostage. I mean, that is something that needs to be called out by the ordinary people and the international community also. I'm very happy that recently one of your MPs, Bob Blackman, I think, in House of Commons spoke about the kind of problems that are happening, the disastrous situation in Bangladesh, and some 4 other MPs had spoken. So I think it is important that the democracies in the world, which want democracy to thrive in Bangladesh, should speak and take into account what is happening. I mean, if we call free, fair, and inclusive elections, so it's not inclusive, yes. Okay, understandable. But how would you ensure they are free and fair elections? I mean, that is something that
Bob Blackman, as you say, was a guest at this show, and he spoke his mind. And the Jamaat Islam that you mentioned, they could barely bag 5 to 7% of the votes. So they are definitely a very small group of people with very little support from the grassroots. Yet 40%, 38 to 40% votes go to Awami League, which is not being allowed to participate in the election. And Bob Blackman MP said that unless 40% of the people can participate and cast vote in favor of their symbol or party, then how can you call it an acceptable election? What would be the stance of India? Because UK in the British Parliament, they've made it fairly straightforward that it will not be an acceptable election. Has India taken a stand on this?
I mean, I don't know what the Britishers are going to do at the end of the day, because it is their great friends, the Americans, who have played a big role in destabilizing Bangladesh in recent times. There is no doubt about it also. So we don't know how the Western countries will eventually follow geopolitics, or they will follow the rule of law and democracy. We don't know. As far as India is concerned, India from day one has been saying that there should be a democratic transition in the government, and it should be a free, fair, and democratic and inclusive election. That has been India's position all along. But at the end of the day, this is for the people of Bangladesh to decide what do they want. You know, this is also, unfortunately, the democracy gets hit in the process when the quest of power takes place among various personalities. And that has been, unfortunately, the history in Bangladesh off and on. So I hope that the people of Bangladesh are awake to the reality that there are others, that there are people supporting BNP, there are people supporting Citizenship Party, there are people supporting Jamaat Islami. Likewise, there are people who are supporting Awami League. So everybody should have a chance. And if you are going to have a national government, as there are reports, in that case, national government minus a 30 or 40% representation of the people would really not be a successful experiment going forward. And that will once again bring about instability and structural issues in the Bangladesh democratic system.
Absolutely. You said it is for the people of Bangladesh to decide, yet 38 to 40% of the people who usually vote for the symbol of Awami League are not going to able to give their preference. On the issue of the referendum, there are 30 odd issues on the July Charter, which is not annexed to the ballot paper. The literacy rate is not very high. How will the people know what is the referendum? So one issue is that how do the people decide when 38 to 40% of the voters are not given a choice? And secondly, on the question of referendum, how do the people of Bangladesh make a choice on a referendum issue spanning over 30 items? None of that is attached to the ballot paper. So is it kind of a sham upon the people?
Well, it is sham and a very dysfunctional one at that. The problem is that I met Ali Riaz also when he was the chair of this committee and was working on it. I think they all worked in whatever good faith you can say, all these brought in from the United States and all. But at the same time, the government, this is essentially not even permissible by a transitory government at this stage. It should be the job of the parliament. Essentially, once the elected parliament is there, they could call for a referendum. Rather than holding it at this stage along with the elections, that will serve no purpose. And you rightly said that if the electorate or the people of Bangladesh are not informed about it, what exactly it entails, merely saying yes, no, it's like putting your stamp on any of the symbol, or for any political party without knowing for what they stand for in any democracy. That is something I believe is not going to serve the people of Bangladesh in the long run, and it has the capacity to the constitution in a way that might completely change the fabric of Bangladeshi constitution. That's also quite possible. So it should be debated. There are systems whereby things are debated, and then you have the referendum. Yes, you do the referendum.
Absolutely.
You can always do it. We've done the studies. There are committees that have come out with the results with certain recommendations. Those must be submitted to the parliament, and then let the parliament decide when to hold the referendum, rather than holding. That would sound more logical way of doing it, rather than rushing it with the elections, which are themselves being questioned by many of the countries who are democracies.
Well, thank you, Anilji. We need to go for a quick break, and we will talk about the referendum upon a return. Please stay with us with Amy TV, the channel of your choice. Thank you.
पहले मैं ऐसी दिखती थी 3 साल पहले। अब इस बीमारी के बाद से मतलब मैं ऐसी हो गई हूँ। पहले मेरी बच्ची बहुत सुंदर और हंसमुख थी।
वक्त उसकी खूबसूरती को मिटा गया। दीपा की दोनों किडनियां खराब हो गईं।
डायलिसिस पे मेरी तबीयत हर बार बिगड़ती है, पानी भी नहीं पी पाती हूँ। डॉक्टर ने कहा है कि आप जल्द से जल्द ट्रांसप्लांट करा लीजिए, वरना आपके साथ कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है आगे, शायद आप ट्रांसप्लांट के भी लायक ना रहें।
किडनी की बीमारी का असर धीरे धीरे लीवर पर भी होने लगा।
10 लाख रुपए बताए हैं। एक ही दुकान है छोटी सी किराए की, जिस पे प्रसाद बेचते हैं। जो कमाई होती है उससे घर चलता है मुश्किल से। काफ़ी कर्जा भी कर लिया है। मैं अपनी किडनी दूंगी अपनी बच्ची को,
मैं चाहती हूँ आप लोग मेरी मदद करें और ताकि मेरे को एक नया जीवन मिले, मैं अच्छी लाइफ जी सकूँ। हम उदयपुर गए और उन्होंने हमारी गंगाराम में ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए जो पैसे दिए उससे हमारी हेल्प हुई।
किडनी देने के लिए डॉक्टर ने बोला, मेरे मन में जरा भी कुछ नहीं आया। बच्चे को जीवन मिल रहा है माँ से तो कोई बुरी बात नहीं है।
अब मुझे अपनी लाइफ में मौका मिला है कि मैं जो भी मैंने स्टडी की है उसका मैं फ़ायदा उठा सकूं। अब मैं जॉब भी कर सकती हूँ और अपने लिए कुछ काम भी कर सकती हूँ।
दीपा की गुम होती खुशियाँ वापस लौट आईं।
मेरी बच्ची को नया जीवन मिल गया है और उससे मैं बहुत खुश हूँ और अब हम माँ बेटी बिल्कुल ठीक हैं।
नहीं तो हम तो उम्मीद खो ही चुके थे हर तरह से, काफ़ी हर तरह से मतलब केयरिंग के बाद अब दीपा हमारे साथ है।
जिन लोगों ने भी मेरी हेल्प की है उन लोगों को भी मैं बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कहना चाहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरी लाइफ को मतलब बचाया, मुझे ज़िंदगी जीने का दोबारा मौका दिया।
हमारा नाम अंजनेल है, हमारा डिस्ट्रिक्ट महबूब नगर तेलंगाना। हमारा ये पूरा ये तकलीफ हो गया, इधर कट करते बोल रहा है हैदराबाद से, इधर कट करते हैं कि हमारा काम करने के कैसे आएगा सब।
उदयपुर आते ही ऐसा लगा मानो कोई अपना मिल गया हो। गरीब बीमारी कष्टग्रस्त आंजनेय का हुआ जटिल सफल ऑपरेशन।
हमारा ये बीमार है, हमारा को इतना मोटा पैर है सर, इतना बीमार रहते वो निकल गया। उधर वो नारायण सेवा संस्था मुंबई के भेज देते उधर ऑपरेशन कर दिया। हमारा 4 लाख रुपए खर्च हो गया। वो नारायण सेवा संस्था 4 लाख रुपए खर्च दिया साहब। अब 25 किलो वजन है, वो पूरा निकल गया। अब के इपड़ पूरा बीमार पूरा खत्म हो गया सर।
हस्बैंड पैर अंजनेलू, इतना पैर मोटा है, मुंबई से ऑपरेशन काट दिया।
हमारा काम करने के चलने के अच्छा आएगा, अगर खोदने के दिक्कत नहीं है, हमारे चलने के अच्छा है।
मेरे बच्ची के बचपन से समस्या है कि ये सुन नहीं पाती है, तो 5 साल पहले इसका ऑपरेशन हुआ था कोक्लियर इम्प्लांट नाम का। तो इसका बाहर का मशीन है जो ख़राब हो चुका है। अभी डॉक्टर कहते हैं कि आपको खुद लेना पड़ेगा, जो कि कीमत इसकी 2,70,000 के आसपास बता रहे हैं। नारायण सेवा संस्था के जरिए मेरी बच्ची को सुनने का मौका मिलेगा और उसका भविष्य सुधर जाएगा।
आप लोगों से निवेदन है, आप मेरी बहन की मदद कीजिए ताकि इसका इलाज हो सके।
Thank you for remaining with us. We were having a very interesting conversation with Ambassador Anil ji. Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the referendum, and the referendum is a culmination of this Constitutional Reform Commission. And as you know, only power to amend the constitution has been given to Parliament, and even that with two-third majority, not by simple majority. So this exercise to amend the constitution by the current interim government, which is of course unelected, no power has been given to any government to amend the constitution at all, leave alone an unelected government. So this committee created by the government is also, to that extent, is coram non judice, illegal. And you said you had spoken to Mr. Ali Riaz, who was the chairperson of this constitutional reform committee. Now, he continues to be an American citizen, and he continues to be a member of a think tank in US, which purpose is to establish US dominance around the world. So how is he qualified, or is there a conflict of interest? I know you sit in a number of different think tanks. What's your view on it?
Well, I think that, if there is some expertise and the government of the day or any think tank wishes to utilize, they would like to bring them. But they could be as external advisors in a way, rather than chairing the committees themselves. That is very rarely that happens. But then Dr. Yunus does a lot of things in very unorthodox manner. That's precisely the people he thought, because he's himself been in the US, knows people there. So many foundations there supported him. So he's been supported by several people in the United States as well. So he obviously brings those people, Bangladeshis, who have done well outside, who are in the know of things, and he thinks that they can provide some kind of a thing. So I cannot comment on his qualifications or even intent as far as Bangladesh, because he is originally a Bangladeshi. So, but at the same, that's what he projected to me. And so whatever be their interest, but the legality of the whole thing is absolutely essential. Whatever you do today must be able to be held in the court of law. Whatever this government does, it's absolutely imperative, because nobody permanently lives in the security of the seat that they occupy at a particular time. They all eventually become answerable to the law. And in Bangladesh's constitution, there is no provision for these kind of referendums to take place. So in a certain way, you can look at this referendum, not only the referendum, but these committees that have been set up could be an advisory committee. He himself calls himself as the chief advisor. So everything else is advisory only. There is you can't take it as a committee whose remit or recommendations are going to be final. And if at all, even if, let's say, theoretically, you presume that they are, and you are a lawyer yourself, so I will not argue in that sense. But even if let's presume that this was done all in good faith and there are recommendations, good or bad, there is a way to do it. These have to be submitted to the parliament of the day, whichever is going to be after the elections of February 12th, if they happen. And then the parliament committees will vet them. There would be parliamentary committees which will vet them, and then they could decide whether to hold a referendum on those issues or not. The others can continue to maintain a pressure during that time that hold the referendum. It's important. These are important recommendations. So there are ways of doing it in a democracy of the things. And I'm not aware if he's pursuing the agenda of his think tank, as you mentioned, but that's precisely what most of them try to do.
There is obviously a conflict of interest, as you rightly say. In addition to that, and most importantly perhaps, is that this is totally ultra vires to the Constitution. There's no provision in the Constitution for a referendum. In order to bring about that provision in the Constitution, Parliament will have to amend the Constitution by two-thirds majority, and only then a referendum can be held. Now, the other peculiar situation with this proposed referendum is that it is not binding any government. So it's not Yunus regime that is taking the mandate from the people, nor can a mandate be given to a future government because the future government hasn't taken oath. It doesn't exist.
Correct.
So who is this referendum for? Who does it bind? What is very peculiar that they have passed an ordinance, and in that ordinance they are trying to bind future members of parliament. Now the cardinal principle of parliamentary democracy is that you cannot bind the hands of future parliament. So it's not worth the piece of paper it's written on, because they're purporting to bind future MPs that they must implement these 30 or 48 issues in the July Charter, which is part of the recommendation of this committee. So the whole thing from a legal perspective is absolutely non-est. It doesn't make sense at all. So that is what they're going ahead with. And you indicated before the break that perhaps there would be a national government. Do you anticipate that this election, therefore, is kind of an eyewash? So whoever wins or loses, it doesn't matter. There's going to be a national government. And in this July Charter and the referendum, the post of the president is being made more and more powerful, and the power of the prime minister is being made less and less powerful. Do you anticipate, as the rumors in the grapevine, that perhaps Dr. Yunus has his eyes on the post of the president and create a national government, so the election is neither here nor there? It's really for him to perpetuate in power.
Well, that could as well be, but it's difficult to read his designs or his mind. So I cannot attribute directly that he intends to be a president, but it will not hurt him. I'm quite sure that if he gets a chance, he will become the president, although he told in recent times that he would not like to continue beyond this after the elections are held. That's his public posturing. But one doesn't know. Given a chance, I'm quite sure he'll be happy to do so. And that's why, I think that the Citizens Party, the Awami League, and the Jamaat Islami and everybody else are also finding certain kind of an accommodation. They need a president, and if Dr. Yunus becomes available, I'm quite sure, and they are all on the same page, that will happen. But at the same time, we should not forget that before the elections, things are very different. After the elections, it will be very different. Depending on which party comes to power, then the sharing of or diminution of the powers of the Prime Minister, or changing the complete nature of the Constitution as far as the distribution of powers is concerned, I think will once again be a very cantankerous process. And it will be very difficult. So that might be the wish or a design through the committee of the reforms committees. But at the same time, those recommendations, in my view, irrespective of the fact that this referendum will go through or not, would be questionable. And I doubt very much. But Bangladesh is also very, very highly educated, intellectual, and the good lawyers like yourself who will be questioning once the systems are in place. Today, the judiciary are at the mercy, but it will rise once the systems are in place. And they will be also wetting it. So I think that it'll depend at that stage as to what happened was right or not. But of course, from prima facie, looking at the way things are or the way they have been advanced, essentially, these committees were set up to buy time to hold the elections. That the results of the committee will come out, the recommendations will come out, then we'll do it. And then there was pressure. And that's why this all was pushed. And then finally, they want to adopt them through this kind of a referendum. So if the referendum is going to be legal, there could be anybody could go to the court and call it out. Then what do you do in that case? So these are all subject to, I think, judicial review eventually. in my view, and of course, Parliament will take a call once it is constituted.
Yes, what is interesting is that post-election, Dr. Yunus's press secretary, his office, has said that he has planned a visit, an official visit to Japan. So, although post-election, in the normal course of events, there is no role for Dr. Yunus. Yet, his visit to Japan is confirmed. Invitations have come, and he will be traveling there in his official capacity. That is rather odd, do you not think so? Unless he has plans to have a role in the government post-election.
I don't know really what is the dates of his visit. Really, I mean, I'm hearing from you. I'm not aware about the dates.
2026.
In March. So let us see that by then the elections are held, and the Prime Minister takes over. At that time, of course, he could go as a Nobel laureate and not in his official capacity.
Yes, except the invitations and the correspondence is all in official capacity,
yes.
Which is
I mean, then whoever the
strange.
president of the day might go.
Yes, so
This could
yet
be
to
his
see.
name at this time. Yes.
Yet to see, but so far his press office have said that he will be taking this trip to Japan, which gives sail to the wind of what you also mentioned before the break, that perhaps a national government and Dr. Yunus could find himself in the post of the president. So these are issues that Bangladesh is grappling with.
You are right. I mean, this also can be construed as his confidence and continuation in his post in one way or the other.
Correct. So once the elections, if at all, goes ahead on time, one of the understanding or the India's interest is, of course, not to use the territory of Bangladesh for terrorism. Now, if there were to be a national government, and if Jamaat has a role, in particular, if they take the post of the Home Office, the Home Ministry, even if Tariq Zia were to become the Prime Minister, to what degree would he be accountable if the territory of Bangladesh is used for extremism or terrorist purposes? And he may well say that, I don't have much control over that, because that ministry is looked after by Jamaat Islam.
Well, I think that's a real threat and concern for India, because the biggest concern, in accordance with our non-reciprocal neighbor first policy, has been that India will provide all assistance, everything possible to our neighbors, and only request to them is that their territory is not used to undermine India's interests and these kind of terror activities or terrorists or extremists that we had seen before 10-15 years would continue. So this time now, as the things stand, we can only hope at this stage that the Bangladesh will take care of it. But I'm not very hopeful, because in the meantime, there's another factor that has come in. Whether Jamaat Islami does it or does not do it, there are others also, like Pakistan, for example, is very happy about the development. They were not happy that the Bangladesh was progressing, frankly. And now the ISI, which is always working, it has created, and they are, in as many words they have said it, is the alacrity, what has happened, that they have control over there. So they will definitely bring these Lashkar groups and others, and India's northeast would be definitely in a spiral. So we'll have to protect our territories. We'll have to prevail upon the government of Bangladesh to take care of, because at the end of the day, Tania ji, terrorism does not only hurt the person you are directed against. Eventually, it's going to also hurt you and your country as well. So therefore, it will be in their own interest to do so. They might try to create these kinds of stunts, creating policies or some kind of a groups they might support to destabilize certain parts in the border areas. But then I think that India is well versed and confident to be able to take care of it.
I'm sure about that, but these are probabilities and possibilities which is one cannot shut their eyes to it. So what measures, if any, that can be taken? And as you rightly said, this is in the interest of the people of Bangladesh, and a legitimate government would also not want anything like that. But is the whole process being preempted through this referendum and through this election, where you indicate there could be a national government? So the whole thing is being preempted away from the choice of the people, where the people doesn't really have a choice when one of the largest political party is not participating, and the referendum doesn't even outline what the issues are. So what choice do the people have? And
well, I think at the end of the day, Tania ji, we should not underestimate the will of the people. You know, in Bangladesh, we have seen again and again, people have risen against these kind of excesses that have been carried out by any government of the day. I mean, this is not first time what happened now. We have seen repeatedly this happens. So I have full faith that the people of Bangladesh do understand what is good for them, and if they think that they are being taken for a ride, they might once again oppose those designs by whichever government is in power. So that is, I mean, that's how the democracies function. And I hope that the institution of democracy in Bangladesh will continue in the right spirit.
We certainly hope so. The people of Bangladesh have shown themselves over and over, as you rightly say, that they believe in democracy, they believe in rule of law. Yet the referendum taken those words away from the constitution. So the word democracy, secularism, the Bengali culture which you referred to, all those words are taken out of the constitution, and the referendum is to introduce something else, which may not be democracy, which will increase the power of the president, who is not directly elected by the people. So there are purported to be a fundamental shift from the premise upon which Bangladesh was born. Bangladesh was the first Muslim majority country which gave itself a constitution, gifted itself based on secular democracy. So this whole exercise seems to be undoing the premise upon which Bangladesh was born. So the referendum, therefore, seems to be some sort of a mechanism which is not legally valid, but purporting to change the whole character, the republican character of the country itself. So hence the whole question of the referendum, the validity of it, which most of our development partners and our friends are more focused on the election rather than the referendum, which seems to be the crux of the matter, cloaked around the issue of election, keeping everyone busy with the issue of election. But the real issue, which will fundamentally alter the constitution, is the question of referendum, which itself is a sham, which is unconstitutional in its very nature. So how do we highlight this? How do the people of Bangladesh highlight that? Because they're put through a process which is totally unconstitutional.
No, I think that unfortunately today reports that come from Bangladesh is that the media whose job it is to disseminate the information is also under a lot of checks, and large number of them have been arrested as well. But most of these revolutions or most of these issues are also happening through social media, and there are institutional groups that are working in this direction. And I think that it is possible for them to communicate with the people and tell them that what is actually implies in this kind of referendum, whether the referendum is legal or not. So there are those issues that can make people awake about a certain reality. So most important thing for them is to be informed exactly what are they going to vote for, what is does it entail. Of course, I mean, if the people don't understand what it is and they still say yes or no, or yes mostly, then the referendum, then the nature of this, according to the present government, could change, because it is also binding the future government, which is ultra vires and illegal. I mean, I don't think that will be as per the law of the land going forward, and we can be questioned later. But at the same time, this, as you are rightly doing it, through the international community also, this kind of issues are being brought about. And they would understand it, and they can always talk in their bilaterals and otherwise with the government of the day that about this legality. I don't know what are their reasons, what they're being advanced, what purpose it will serve, as you as a legal person are also mentioning that it is ultra vires of the constitution as well as the legal domain itself. Then the government of the day, which is doing it, should be knowing about it definitely. And despite that, they want to push it simultaneously with the elections, trying to give it the legitimacy which it does not deserve.
Yes, obviously there is an agenda, and on those notes, a positive note, we would need to end the show because we are at the end of our time. But you have been most helpful, and through this dissemination, I hope that the viewers in India and of course here in the UK becomes aware of the dilemma. It's a catch-22 situation that the people of Bangladesh are facing, that this referendum is purporting to alter the very nature and fabric of the constitution and the premises upon which Bangladesh was born. And not much choice is being given to the people. So with those notes, thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I wish
and hope to have you
Bangladesh
here again soon.
A strong Bangladesh and more prosperous and developed Bangladesh with great democracy in the country.
Thank you so much. And Joy Bangla. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for remaining with us. That's all for tonight. See you again next week, same time. Good night.